Good afternoon, y'all. So, I want to take this opportunity to do another tuning video. This is a MS440 that came to me a couple months ago, and it was completely trashed. It fell out of a tree. Cases were completely busted off. All the plastics were broken. Tank was broken. So this has had pretty much a whole new bottom end put on it, new crank, everything. A couple of little Frankenstein stuff going on with the old saw and this new saw. So even though this is all for a MS440, I think it was an older model with a newer model. I don't know, but there were some things that kind of wasn't jihad. I got a 440 filter cover for them. It's fine, but this plastics that covered the carburetor area didn't want to do right with the throttle shaft, so I had to clearance a little bit on that, stuff like that. But anyway, it's running. I haven't done anything other than just fire it up and kind of tune it a little bit without a bar and chain on it. I just barred it up last night, and that's all I've done. But I want to take the opportunity to use this to do a tuning video, because I frequently get asked, how do you tune, or get told I really don't know how to tune a saw. And even though I've made one before, I think this is going to be the opportunity to really showcase it. So here we go. MS440 boarded, got a West Coast bark box. I've done a timing advance, corded pretty hot, but not crazy, because this is for a local tree work company. And here we go. So like I said, all I've done is fired it up without a bar and chain on it. So this is going to need a full tuning regimen. And I'm going to go ahead and talk you through what I'm going to do. All right. So I've already reset the carburetors. And what that is taking your high jet and your low jet all the way in till you bottom out. Then the low jet I like to take out. Once I bottom out, I'll come back out 1 1/4 turns. On the high jet, I'll bottom out and I'll come back out 1 turn. On the idle, I like to bottom it out all the way and then come out 3 full turns. And usually, 9 times out of 10, that lets me start up just fine. You know, every place is different. You know, elevation changes things, temperature changes things, but most of the time, that'll get me fired up and running. And then once I get it fired up, I'll kind of tune it up a little bit. Just kind of get it to idle smooth. Now, here's the thing. Your low jet is usually the one closest to the engine. Almost every time. I don't know if I've really ever seen it where it wasn't. Your high jet's behind it, and then your idle's always by itself. And the idle may be on top on some, and on bottom on some. Every saw is a little bit different. All right? So I've already done that. I've already got it to where it was idling pretty good without a bar and chain on it. I have not started it up since I've got a bar and chain on it. So here we go. Choke. The most important thing, especially for a steel saw, and I don't care what brand, what model it is, a steel saw, whenever you pull it over on choke, if it pops, if you hear a pop, if you think you heard a pop, don't pull the damn thing over again on choke. Steels are especially known for flooding easily if you choke them too much. So, here we go. First pull, pop. Don't pull it again. Go to run or fast idle. So it crunked easily, it's idling decent, but if you notice, whenever I was hitting the trigger, it was kind of sluggish to accelerate. So what I do on that, and there is no if and or what if this is the way I do it. I'm gonna have it sitting here I'm going to be holding this trigger, and I'm going to have my screwdriver in the low jet. And then what I'll do is I'll just play with it one way or the other until I get fast acceleration. I want instant throttle pop. Wow, wow, wow. That's what I want that to hit. I don't care what this chain is doing. I want this thing to pop hard and fast. Once I get that, then I'll mess with that chain. Then I'll mess with the idle adjustment to get that chain where I want it. There's a possibility once I get it where I want it as far as the throttle hit, it could be good. We don't know. Here we go. Okay, so now I got my throttle hitting the way I want it to hit. But you see how fast that chain was spinning. So now we're going to adjust the idle. I'm going to start it back up. That chain's going to be spinning like crazy. I'm going to go into the idle screw, and because it's spinning like that, I'm going to fatten that idle screw up until I start seeing that chain slow down. And then I'm going to stop for a second and see how much it slows down. If it's still spinning, I'll fatten it up a little bit more and a little bit more until I see that chain almost completely stop or completely stop. If it's just kind of bumping forward, that's fine. We just don't want it spinning. Here we go. Much, so I have to take that back and tighten that up a little bit. Lean it out a little bit. See, what happened on that is because I had to fatten up this idle jet so much that I need to make some more low jet adjustments, because you should be able to get as close as you can on your low jet to where you don't have to do a bunch of idle adjustment. So we're going to try that again. See, it's too fat now. Choke it. Yep. All right. So it's way too fat. It's probably flooded. I'm going to lean all these up a little bit. Okay, so that right there, that tells me my problem right there. I actually have my low jet. It was barely open. All right, so we're gonna go to about 3/4 of a turn on that. I'm glad that happened like that. So, what happened here was, by trying to get my throttle acceleration, I had leaned out my low jet too much. But I had to do that because my idle was too fat the whole time, all right? So ultimately what I ended up doing was resetting my low jet, bringing it back out to 3/4 of a turn, and I did not mess with my idle at all. And then I started it back up, got on my low jet, and I started hitting my throttle until I started getting good acceleration. And then I wanted to kind of go a little bit further as long as I still had good acceleration, and it slowed my chain down for me. So we're at a good set right now with our low jet and our idle screw. On the high jet, the way I like to do the high jet is I'll fire it up. This saw is pretty warm now. Same thing I did with the low jet, I'll do with the high jet. I'll have my screwdriver in the high jet, and then what I'll do is I'll do about 3 to 5 second burst wide open. And what I like to do is have it wide open, and then I'm going to lean it out until it stops four-stroking. I want it to scream. I want it to go to the point that I don't want to run it at. Once I hit that, I have my mark at what is too far. So from that point, I'm going to start fattening it back up until I hear it go from that high-pitched whine. It'll be whine, and we don't want that. We want it to have a stutter. So while I'm having that wide open, I'm going to fatten it up a little bit until it comes from that high pitch into a little bit of a gurgle, whatever you want to call it. I want to hear it go whine. I want it to hit that thing, but not stay in it. I want it to come out and touch it. And that's the point at which I will put it in the wood and refine it. But you can run your saw like that. It may not be the most optimal for power, but you can run it like that and you shouldn't burn it up unless you're running a dull chain. So here we go. Okay, so what you should have heard there was it sounded pretty good right off the bat, but I wanted to show y'all what I was doing. So I leaned it out, I leaned it out until you heard it hit that high clean run. That high clean run is where it becomes dangerous for your saw. So from that point, I started fattening it back up. I wanted to get it until I heard it just strong enough hit a 4-stroke. So I backed it up till I hit the 4-stroke. You heard that. It started like it was almost underwater, gurgling water, right? So then I leaned it back out again and hit that high pitch. And then from that point, I just turned it fat. I turned it to the left. I opened up that fuel. Man, a 32nd of a turn at a time until I started hearing it touch a 4-stroke. You don't want it hitting 4-stroke. You want it touching that 4-stroke. Because if you're touching that 4-stroke, when you put it in wood, it should clean up. You want it to be clean in the wood. You do not want 4-stroking in the wood. You want it to be a good, steady, constant RPM in the wood. And usually, Not every time, but usually whenever you go to that lean condition and then you take it back just enough to where you hit that 4-stroke, it'll clean up in the wood. Now from here, I will adjust it in the wood to try to get optimal performance. Here we go. So it's actually running pretty damn close to ideal, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more fuel to it to see if I can pick up a little bit more RPM in the cut. Out of the cut, it may not be good. It may actually be 4-stroking hard, but in the cut, it may give it more torque by giving it more fuel, so it actually gives you more RPM in the cut. And you're not going to hurt it that way at all. Giving it more fuel, honestly, won't ever hurt your saw other than possibly causing carbon buildup. But as long as you're running a good oil mix, you shouldn't really have to worry about that. So here we go. Again. Woo. All right, so I ended up giving it, I'm sorry, this thing's running like a bat out of hell. I ended up giving it probably another, little over 1/8 of a turn fat. Maybe not quite a quarter, but a little over 1/8 of a turn, giving it more fuel. And if you listened, you could hear it actually pick up RPM in the cut a little bit while I was giving it more fuel. And that's because it's allowing it now, it's feeding it enough fuel for it to sustain its power in the cut. So, that being said, that is how you tune a saw. Now, let me finish cutting this off, and I want to get a good clean pass with this baby because this thing is cutting fantastic. That thing's cutting great. All right. Now, I want to get this thing out of the way so that I can make a good clean cut now. Looks like I hit dirt a little bit. I hope I didn't kill my chain. Oh no, we're good. We're good. All right. So, here we go. Michael, this is your MS 440. Completely rebuilt. And it's a 28-inch bar and chain. This is probably, I don't know, close to 3 foot of red oak. So, here we go, Mike. love it when a plan comes together. Michael, dude, this thing's running spectacular, man. Spectacular, brother. Wow. Wow. All right. I may have refined my recipe a little bit more on this one. Yeah, so it stumbled a little bit on that backside, but that's, for those of you who don't really know about cutting wood, and I'm not trying to say y'all don't. You know, when you're hitting different angles, whenever you're bowing up on it, your dogs are set in, the tree could be sitting at a cant, like, there's a lot of variables that can bind your chain up a little bit and make it kind of stumble. That wasn't the power. That wasn't an issue with the power. That was the angle at which I was having to cut. So what I'm gonna do is just try to, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna make another cut. I mean, there's no point trimming this thing out for that. 28 inch, 050, full comp, Husqvarna RX, hand filed by me. Looks like I may be off a little bit on the rakers because it is walking just a little bit. Nothing real bad, and that could be the way I was holding it too at that crazy angle. But it's throwing good chip, and yeah, this is the results of it, y'all. She's tuned up good to go, and this is the Chips and Chains MS 440. So, y'all seen it. I did that all by ear and feel, right? I broke out my tack. It is idling at 2,800 RPM, dead on. Wide open, it's 13,980. Now, the reason I bring that up is because some people like to tune by tack. Well, there you go. If you would have tuned by tack, and you would have tuned this to 12,500, which I think is what's recommended, between 12,500 and 13,000 is what's recommended, you would have been leaving 1,000 RPM on the table. A ported saw is different than factory specs. Just remember that. It's moving more air, it's moving more fuel. It's going to run better. It's going to be more efficient. And actually, that's not hot, but it's hotter than I like. So, this is another part of tuning, y'all. It may be running great, but it's running a little hot. So I want to give it just a little bit more fuel to cool it off. And not much. Just that, maybe a 1/16 of a turn. It's still going to be right there in its power band. It's still going to be very comparable to where it was just at. But now you're giving a little bit more fuel, a little bit more lubrication. So, where's the heat come from, right? The heat comes from high RPM friction, right? There's a whole thing that goes into that. I'm not trying to get into the whole scientific evaluation of it. Thermal expansion causes your piston to expand a little bit, and if your piston expands faster than your cylinder does, then you start getting heavy friction, which can lead to you scorching your piston. That's what a lean condition causes. Okay, as far as I'm gonna go with that. If you notice you're starting to get a little bit hot with your tune, give it a little bit more fuel. It will bring it down. I'm running a 40-to-1 AMSOIL Dominator 87 ethanol free in this. I'm not gonna get into the fuel aspect of it. Some people say 90, some people say 89. Look, I got a gas station a quarter mile from my house that sells 87 E-free. That's what I use, okay? As long as you're running a good high quality oil, which I personally recommend AMSOIL Dominator for a ported saw, 40-to-1 at minimum. If it's a really hot saw, 32-to-1. AMSOIL Dominator has such a high flash point that it doesn't really matter if you run it thicker than normal. It is going to burn clean. It is not going to leave carbon residual residue. It's going to keep your saw efficient and clean and long lasting if you run it right with the right mix with good fuel. All right, so we fattened it up a little bit. You're probably going to hear it 4-stroke a little bit harder now. All right, so to me, it lost a little RPM, but it felt like it had more torque in the cut. And that's what you want, guys, for a work build. You know, everybody builds different. I try to build a saw that's kind of like in between that little niche there between straight up work build and a little bit higher horsepower. I want this thing to be safe. I want it to be long lasting. But personally, I try to get as much out of them as I can while trying to keep that stability. Everybody's different. Everybody builds different. This is why I say, research your builder. Find one that accommodates what you're looking for. But this thing is running lights out, y'all. I'm gonna clean this little piece up real quick. So there you have it. This is Michael's MS440 that was bought back from the brink of death. Busted cases, busted tank, busted handle, busted plastics. Thankfully, I had a part saw that pretty much had everything that we needed, except for the air filter cover. I had to order that. And y'all, that saw is already cooler than it was before I gave it more fuel. But anyways, I hope y'all enjoy this video. I hope it helps y'all out understand a little bit better about tuning. You know, everybody can't afford an M-tronic. So this saw, because the man is a repeat customer, he's a local, I think I charged him $650, and that included the new bottom end, the plastics, the other little parts that I had to change out, and the port job. Now, I also got him some West Coast shorties and a West Coast muffler. And that's the build, y'all. I did the timing advance. I want to say I did 4.5 degrees because I went a little hot on this. I try not to go the full 5 degrees if I go a little bit hotter on my recipe. And like I said, I mean, it's not cold, but you can leave your hand on it and it doesn't burn the hell out of it. So she's running good, and that's how you tune a saw, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this. And God bless y'all. Y'all like, subscribe, do all that jazz.